We will be watching a slideshow that has to do with the numbers, but as well we're integrating the verb to have and its conjugations. So here is this slideshow. Los números, the numbers, and useful uses for the numbers. We already have heard cuántos años tienes, and now we're working with cuántas of something do you have. Okay, we're going to use words around the classroom. We're going to use certain nouns that we've learned, fruits, and things like that. We're going to learn how to say how many do I have, how many do you have, how many does he have, how many do we have, or how many do they have. So all the different conjugations of the verb to have, we're going to learn that in Spanish and see the pattern that they have and how they break the pattern as well. ¿Cuántos años tienes? This is something that we've learned since you were in first grade, second grade. Hola, ¿cuántos años tienes? Hola, tengo 8 años. In Spanish, we use the verb tener because we're saying how many years do you have? I have X number of years. Okay? So we're also going to do a little review. I'm going to review what a pronoun is. A pronoun is a word that can take the place of a noun. And I'm going to be showing you shortly a list of pronouns that are subjective personal pronouns. And these pronouns are acting as the subject of the sentence, or they can act as the subject of the sentence. I, you, he, she, it, we. You plural that you don't really have in English, but we'll learn the Spanish version of that, and they. So you will hear me in class talk about first person singular, second person singular, third person singular, first person plural, second person plural, third person plural. So this is what I'm talking about when you hear that in class. So we're going to look at the Spanish equivalent of those pronouns. So I, we already know, is yo. You is tú. And it also could be usted, which is the formal word for you. And we've already spoken about that in class. We have he or she, which is él or ella. We have we, which is nosotros or nosotras. And we know the difference. Nosotros is we're talking we, a group of boys or men, or a mixed group of men and women. And nosotros is a group of only women. Then we have the you plural that you don't really use in English. You don't have a separate, different word in English. So you can use vosotros or vosotras, again, feminine, masculine. And the you plural that is formal will be ustedes. Then they, we have ellos and ellas. Okay, a little bit more background. We're going to talk about the infinitive of a verb. What is the infinitive of a verb? And the infinitive of the verb is when the verb is, in Spanish, on the AR, ER, or IR ending. It's the basic form of the verb. In English, the equivalent is saying the to plus a verb, like to run, to jump, to drink, to sing. Those are other examples. So you have the verb with the to, that's the basic form of that verb. When the verb is in the infinitive, we do not know who's doing the action. So if I tell you tener, we don't know who's doing the action. If I say correr, we don't know who's doing the action. In this example that we're going to be studying about on the slideshows, tener is in its infinitive because it ends in ER. It's equivalent to have. We don't know who is doing the action. We're going to look at the verb to have, which means tener, and all the conjugations in English. I have, you have, he has, or she has. we have, you all have, and they have. Not a lot of change on that. Pretty simple. Well, now we're going to look at the conjugation of tener or a regular ER verb in present tense, and how we change it depending on who's doing the action, and how the ending of that verb will change depending on who's doing the action. So first things first, when you have the infinitive of a verb in Spanish, you need to remove that ending. That means the AR, the ER, or the IR. Then you're going to add a new ending depending on who's doing the action. And with regular verbs, you just remember that pattern and you'll do great. Of course, tener is not a regular verb, so we're going to have to memorize that one. So for the regular ER verb is you remove the ER for the yo, and then you add an O. For tú, you remove the ER and you add an ES. For él or ella, and also for usted, you remove the ER and you add the E. For nosotros or nosotras, remove the ER and add hemos. Vosotros, vosotras, remove the ER and add AS. And for ellas or ellos and ustedes, you remove the ER and you add N. So that's O-S-E, hemos, AS, N. O-S-E, hemos, AS, N. And you'll find several songs on YouTube that, that has this little pattern, and they're fun to listen to. So here we go. A regular present tense verb conjugation for an ER verb is O-S-E, hemos, AS, N. O-S-E, hemos, AS, N. But tener is an irregular verb. Because of that, you're going to have to memorize the different changes that tener has. First, we're going to remove the ER ending. So tener becomes ten. Then we're going to add a new ending. So even though tener does follow a little bit of this pattern, it changes on its stem. And it's called a stem changing verb. That means that the root of that word will have a little bit of a change. So that in some of its conjugations, not on all of them, you'll see that the E will change to IE. So E to IE. Let's look at yo. Yo tengo. I removed the ER. I added the O, but I need to have that G there. So it's tengo. Tú. I remove the ER and add the ES, but my E becomes IE, so it's tienes. Again, with él or ella, I remove the ER, I add an E, but the E becomes IE and it's tiene. Nosotros tenemos, vosotros tenéis, and again here on ellos and ellas, I remove the ER, I add the EN, but my E becomes IE. This is another name for this type of verb is a boot verb, because if you highlight and make a circle around the yo, tú, él, ella, and then the ellos, it makes like a little bit of a shape of a boot. So they call it the boot verb. And that means that the two, the vosotros and the nosotras that are outside of the boot follow the pattern, and the other ones don't. Let's look at these. Again, we're just reviewing the same. We have yo tengo, which means I have. Tú tienes means you have. Él tiene or ella tiene means he has or she has. And then I did not include it on the picture, but usted, which is the you formal, conjugates the exact same way as él or ella. So usted tiene. Then let's go with nosotros or nosotras tenemos, which is we have. Vosotros and vosotras tenéis, which is you, plural informal, have. Ellos y ellas tienen, which is they, either feminine or masculine, have. And again, I did not include the you, plural formal, which is ustedes, that will conjugate the same way as the ellos and ellas. So that will be ustedes tienen. Okay, we've already done cuantas and cuantas. In the previous lesson, we had done cuantas hay, how many are there? And we know that we use cuantos if we're thinking of how many of a masculine word or a masculine noun, and cuantas with a feminine noun. So, ¿cuántas manzanas tiene la chica? How many apples does the girl have? Manzanas is a feminine noun, so we use cuántas. The answer, la chica tiene 2,000 manzanas. She has 2,000 apples. And ¿cuántos libros tienen los estudiantes? How many books do the students have? See the conjugation of tienen, because it's they have. Los estudiantes tienen 15,200 libros. They have 15,200 books. The students. Again, let's look at this. ¿Cuántos años tienes? Yo tengo 7 años. ¿Cuántos años tiene la maestra? La maestra tiene 40 años. ¿Cuántos años tiene el perro? El perro tiene 36 años. That's a really old dog. So what's the difference between tienes and tiene? If you guess correct. Tienes means you. How old are you? And tienes, how old is he or how old is she? So that's the difference. We conjugate it differently. And on the first example, you say yo tengo, I have. Okay? So that's I. Let's look some examples here. How would you say, how old am I? See, how old am I? How would you say that? Right. ¿Cuántos años tengo? I. You look at your little chart. I is yo tengo. I am 102 years old. I'm 102 years old. I am, yo tengo 102 años. And I've told you in class that technically you could leave the yo out because tengo is conjugated for yo. So it's already implied that it means I have 102 years, or I am 102 years old. All right, let's look at another example. You see, this one is with yo. ¿Cuántos años yo tengo? How old am I? And I am 102 years old. Let's look at the second example. It's how old are you? We're talking about you. You're not talking about I or me anymore. You're talking about you. And you are 15 years old. ¿Cuántos años tienes? That is correct. If that's what you guess, ¿cuántos años tienes? Because you is tienes. And again, you are 15 years old, so tienes gets repeated. You tienes. Tú tienes 15 años. Technically, you don't have to put the two because tienes implies already that is two. Let's keep on going. And again, how old is the girl? Oh, there's a typo right there. I forgot to put is. How old is the girl? The girl is 5 years old. ¿Cuántos años tiene la chica? Or la niña? Or la muchacha? Either word is correct. The girl is 5 years old. La chica tiene 5 años. She's 5 years old. La chica. So what person do you think you're talking about? First person singular, second person singular, third person singular? él or ella, which is the third person singular. It means he or she. How old are we? We are 6 years old. We're talking plural, so this is first person plural. ¿Cuántos años tenemos? Okay, so we conjugate the verb to have to mean we. ¿Cuántos años tenemos? Tenemos 6 años. We are 6 years old. You see how over here I did not put nosotros tenemos 6 años? I just put tenemos. You do not necessarily need to put the nosotros because tenemos already indicates it's nosotros. If you wanted to differentiate and be exact because you want to say it's nosotras instead of nosotros because it's a group of only girls, then you could put it if you wanted to. So nosotros, nosotras. Let's keep on going. We have a couple more. How are you? All. It's plural, all of you. So this is the second person plural. You all are 2 years old. The entire group of kids is 2 years old. ¿Cuántos años tenéis? Vosotros tenéis 2 años. And here my bracket already came in early. So that means vosotros, vosotras. You all. So this is the you plural informal. Okay, you plural informal. How old are the dogs? The dogs are 9 years old. The dogs is plural, they. They, so that's third person plural. ¿Cuántos años tienen los perros? Los perros tienen 9 años. So that is ellos or ellas, they. Okay? And for you to start learning these, I recommend doing your little table right beforehand so you can just go ahead and look at the table as you're writing your sentences. All right, let's practice these. I want to see how many of you are listening to this till the end. So I want you to write these questions down on a piece of paper and bring the translation of the question and give me the answer. Write it all down and bring that to class. How many lemons do you have? And then the answer will have 1,236 lemons. So let me do the first one for you. ¿Cuántos limones tienes? You have, tienes. Tienes 1,236 limones. Okay? Do the other one for homework in a piece of paper. How many squares does the teacher have? The teacher has 15,879 squares. Returning students know what the word for squares is. If you do not know, please look it up in the dictionary. Again, how many clocks do we have? We have 551 clocks. How many floors do you, plural, informal, so which one is the plural informal, have? You, plural informal, have 32 floors. That's something really odd to have, but let's see. How many pairs do I have? I have 932,674 pairs. I want you to, again, write these down for homework and bring them in. And how many stars does the student have? The student has 6,994 stars. Again, returning students know what the word for stars is. If you're a new student, you can look that one up in the dictionary. How many doors do you, plural, formal, you, plural, formal, singular, have? You have 515,784 doors. And how many chairs does the teacher have? Oh no, do the teachers have, sorry. It's plural. The teachers have 91,002 chairs. That's the end of it. I expect those written out on a piece of paper and brought into class on our next schedule class. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.